In a previous interview, you talked about struggling throughout the season. So what changed and how are you able to turn the page so that the end of the season went a lot better?
When the 2024 season began, Lexie Hull appeared to be on the verge of utterly disappearing from the WNBA debate. Recall that in 2022, this was a 6th overall pick. A player who used to carry herself like a future cornerstone and lift championships at Stanford. Nevertheless, she was gathering splinters rather than minutes under former coach Christy Sides. Pushed to the end of the bench as role players passed her in the lineup, fans started speculating. Was Hull ever going to fulfill her promise, or was she destined to be another draft bust gathering dust?
So you have basketball in your genes. Your grandfather played basketball, your dad, and you have a twin sister who you played basketball with growing up. What was it like growing up in that family dynamic?
Well, we have a super competitive family, and having my dad play basketball collegiately, knew that basketball was going to be put in my hands at an early age. But my parents were, super excited about having us try every sport imaginable. So yeah, we grew up, my sister and I, playing a little bit of everything.
Then the earthquake struck. The emergence of Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation star, completely changed the franchise's identity in addition to changing the lineup for the Fever. Sneakers and electricity were her game. Additionally, she pulled gravity in addition to scoring. Every player's trajectory abruptly changed, the camaraderie had fire, and the offense had purpose the moment Clark entered Indiana. This was more than just a teammate joining the roster for Lexie Hull.
It served as a lifeline.
You may express your support for Lexie by leaving a comment below that reads, "Lexie Show.
Come on."
I think it was important to get to know her off the court because I do think that, connections, getting to know people really play a part in the success of teams.
In recent conversations with She's for Sports and the Dunker Spot, Paul was candid and blunt. She revealed what truly transpired in that locker room, how her career trajectory was completely altered by Clark's presence, and what it means for the Fever to go from a struggling disaster to one of the most captivating tales in basketball. This goes beyond the rebirth of a single player. It concerns leadership, atonement, and a cultural change that may determine the Indiana Fever's future.
She's been called the clutch player by WNBA fans, and she was drafted to the W in 2022 with the Indiana Fever in the first round as the 6th pick. I'm talking about professional basketball player Lexie Hull.
For Hull, the first few months of 2024 were terrible. Despite her draft status and college accolades, she was unable to make the regular rotation. Hull sat with a towel across her shoulders as Christy Wallace, Katie Lou Samuelson, and other players with half her ceiling ate up her minutes.
Beginning of the season, my playing time definitely looked different than it did at the end. So trusting that, I was staying ready, putting in the work so that when I did get the minutes out on the court, that I could take full advantage of them. So I was just really proud of myself for trusting the process and staying the course.
It hurt. The transition from Stanford star to bench warmer in Indiana was as difficult mentally as it was physically.
The basketball part of the transition is really tough. Everybody out on the court was one of the best players on their college teams, definitely the best player likely from their high school team. So it's just this mishmash of the best basketball players. And then you're playing against people that have been there for years and years.
The team as a whole, meanwhile, was in full swing. From the start, the Fever faltered to a 1-8 record. A somber beginning that left Indianapolis fans clamoring for clarification. And those responses were not forthcoming.
We were just sick that we had lost so many games and also feeling like we were better than that.
There were many scathing critiques in the headlines. Poor defense, poor rotations, and no chemistry. While the entire ship appeared to be sinking, Hull, trapped on the sidelines, had to battle her own doubts as everyone else in the locker room felt the pressure.
Part of my role is just getting to the open spots, and we have such a good offense that people find the open person. So to be that open person, you get excited. You get excited for the opportunity to shoot and score and be part of the momentum.
Hull, however, resisted allowing the story to consume her. She stepped up her efforts, honing her cutting skills, straightening her jumper, and remaining prepared for whatever slivers of chance she might be able to seize. She also relied on the support of her teammates throughout it all, as they continued to see her potential even when the stat sheets didn't. That conviction turned into fuel.
What is it like playing off of Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston?
I mean, they make my job really easy, right? It's awesome. And it's really cool to see all of them just grow, not only from this year, but playing 3 years with Kelsey, 2 years with Aaliyah. They're so impressive.
Everything changed when Clark came. As soon as Caitlin entered that locker room, it seemed as though the lights had returned. The energy had returned to practices, the arenas were crowded with spectators, and Indiana was no longer a joke. In the league, it was the most sought-after ticket. She ensured that everyone else matched Clark's competitive edge and unwavering drive.
And I think it's really fun because they garner so much attention, obviously, from the other team's defense. So then it allows the other players, me included, to make cuts, make reads, and they're really good at finding, those openings and giving the ball up when it's needed and finding the better shot. So it's really fun, and I feel really lucky to get to play with them.
We play against guys in practice, and if they're not winning, Caitlin will do everything in her power to ensure they're competing, Hull said with a giggle. It's more than simply energy. Transformation is that.
I mean, I definitely got passes and tried to finish when I wasn't expecting to get the ball. So now it's okay, every cut I have, every cut I make, every fast break I run, I have a real opportunity to get the ball, which definitely took me a second. And I think it really just took one of those to really get my head around oh, she's all the way down at the other end of the floor and she could still make the pass to me down at the block at this end. So, it's been awesome.
Clark's contributions went beyond his celebrity status. Fast forward was hardwired into a basketball brain. Like a seasoned quarterback, she studied defenses and threaded passes into openings that her teammates were unaware of. That was a surprise for Hull. She was suddenly exposed and in scoring positions she had never been in before. Hull said, "She's making passes I didn't think were possible." Defenders were drawn to Clark like a magnet, and her vision broke down barriers to free her teammates. The offense of the Fever was no longer mired in a rut. It was buzzing.
It's so fun to be able to know that you're not just cutting to cut, knowing that you're cutting with the possibility of actually making a really cool play. So that makes it that much more worthwhile.
Clark's fire spread like wildfire. Like wildfire, her competitiveness swept over the lineup. Players who had previously questioned their ability to compete felt as though they could now compete with anyone. The youngster brought belief in addition to baskets. And that was everything to Hull. The crew immediately embraced Clark's maturity and leadership, which rapidly improved morale and output.
She sees the game at a bigger scale, obviously with the platform that she's created for herself, and then that's transitioned to the game. It's huge. And I think for me, especially as a point guard and as someone that's delivering a lot of the passes that lead to shots, if I miss, she's definitely going to say, you got the next one. I can count on her for keeping me confident and positive. So yeah, I think that shows the player that she is and the leader she is as a point guard.
The outcomes quickly followed. The Fever began to settle into a rhythm and developed into a unified, potent offensive force. Paul acknowledged that knowing you have a genuine chance to make a play makes the game that much more enjoyable. Clark allowed her to do so. She wasn't merely a celebrity. She was a game changer who instantly changed Hull and other teammates' paths. However, was this energy boost sufficient to salvage Indiana's season? The answer will emerge during the arduous weeks ahead. That was still the question.
It's really awesome to get to know her as well because, she's a great person, but you have all these expectations put on her and our team has put on her and fans have put on her. So to see her kind of be so mature in that transition, it's been really awesome. And I'm just really proud to, have her on the team, and it's been exciting.
The move was notable for not taking place in front of cameras or in harsh lighting. In practice, it took place behind closed doors. Hull clarified that those meetings turned into fights rather than exercises. Clark insisted that scrimmages escalate into conflicts. Clark encouraged them to immediately fix any broken sets. No shortcuts, no excuses. The rest of the roster had to step up to meet the higher standards set by her competitiveness. Coaches also noticed the shift. Once dragged practices suddenly gained momentum. A true team identity started to emerge as a result of the battle.
The Indiana Fever had a history-making year. What was that like for you to be a part of that?
I'm really grateful for the opportunity to not only play in the WNBA, but to be on a team like the Indiana Fever. I've seen so much growth, not only on the team side, how we're performing on the court, but also the growth in fans. I mean, on the road, it felt like home games. We're playing in sold-out arenas that we have not played in the last 2 years before that. So, I mean, it's just really exciting.
This change was more than just a team effort for Hull. It was so intimate.
All of it comes down to trusting the process. And part of that process is making sure that the work's getting done.
Hull put herself into honing the finer points of her game, perfecting her cuts, and striving for jumper consistency. For a whole month, we practiced during the Olympic break. She clarified, "I gained the confidence I required after witnessing those shooting percentages increase." In the end, that effort in the dark paid off. Hull wasn't simply another player off the bench by the time the season's second half arrived. She had established herself as a key component of Indiana's attack.
I think one thing that our coaches did during that break, I mean, we had a full month of practice pretty much during the Olympic break, and they would put up every day after practice our shooting percentages from 2s and 3s during drills, during scrimmages, during everything. And I think that helped me because, some people were probably like, it's so annoying, whatever, but I personally liked it.
And without Caitlin Clark, none of it would be possible. It was like handing Hull a free pass because of Clark's ability to bend defenses. Howell remarked, "Kelsey and Caitlin get a lot of attention. This gives guys like myself the freedom to cut and look for opportunities." And buckets began to form from those apertures. The percentages for Hull increased. She started making crucial plays under duress as her confidence soared. Indiana was suddenly booming rather than stumbling.
Numbers don't lie, unfortunately, and they're very drastic. My first 2 years, I was just so upset because I was putting in so much work, and my shooting percentages, I would granted get like 1 or 2 at the max, 3s a game. So it's hard to be super efficient when the pressure is really on for those couple shots. But the numbers don't lie. So it really allows you to look at improvements and really shoot for goals and keep yourself like accountable.
It was impossible to ignore the chemistry as the fever piled up. Hull revealed that we never betrayed one another. That mentality and solidarity were what got us through the difficult times, stretches. Even the fans knew it. Once half-empty arenas were now crowded, and social media was ablaze with videos, compliments, and calls to action for this new-look Fever squad. Hull explained how home games are an adrenaline rush. "We had not felt this kind of intensity in years until we performed for a sold-out audience. It's difficult to express how much it meant. Once in dire need of a winner, Indianapolis was booming once more."
All of these people were supporting me this whole time, and I didn't know that they were supporting me until that moment. So like, you kind of forget that there's these people behind the scenes until they come out of the woodwork and say like, "I've been following along this whole time. Like, I'm so proud of you." And that just feels so good to know that there's, such a community behind everybody on our team, even when you don't hear it every day.
This was not only a story about a comeback. It was a declaration. Hull was thriving and Clark was directing, so the Fever weren't simply looking to make the playoffs. They were rewriting the franchise's potential ceiling. The how far this gang could go was the only question remaining. And given rising expectations, how long could they maintain this chemistry?
And you and Erica Wheeler started swapping outfits, so where did that idea come from?
Our styles are so drastically different. So we were just joking, like, I wonder what it would look like if you could pull it off. And the first outfit was something so outside of what I would have ever picked out of my closet. And they're like, that's not going to look good on me. I'm like, all right, let's try. So then I tried it on and everyone was like, you pull it off, you pull it off. So then it just became part of the pregame tradition. And it's a really fun, lighthearted way to just, get us in the mood to play.
The rise in fever was equally dramatic off the floor. Hull and other players abruptly had to adjust to a new reality. In Indianapolis, brief errands evolved into spontaneous autograph signings. The faces that had before been unknown in the city were now well known. It was both exhilarating and overwhelming.
Walking through the grocery store in Indianapolis and
like trying to just go get some groceries and someone fist bumps me and says, "Go Fever." Like that's just a really cool environment, and it shows, the dedication of the fans and the fandom in the city. So that part's been awesome.
As Hull discovered, fame has two sides. There were internet reviews for each game. A wave of noise accompanied every loss. Additionally, each victory carried with it fresh demands.
Pros, it's pretty obvious. We have people filling the stands. We have people cheering. We have people so excited for the individual success of the teams, but also the league as well as players. So there's so many more eyes on the game. Social
media turned both a help and a hindrance. Hull acknowledged that the continuous criticism can strengthen her resolve, but also serve as a source of inspiration. Reading through the comments following defeats served as a reminder of how intense the attention had grown. It's difficult, but it's a necessary aspect of the work. She acknowledged providing a glimpse into the psychological costs associated with celebrity.
It's hard. Like, it's easy to say, like, yeah, don't read it. But everybody does a little bit. And I think it's having like that support system to help keep you on track.
The Fever leaned on one another through it all. They started using their locker room for more than simply planning. It turned into a haven where the emphasis was maintained on development, resiliency, and friendship rather than the ceaseless noise outside. The squad had the foundation it needed to succeed in a season that put everyone to the test because to this culture, which was based on accountability and sincere trust, they were learning how to take control of the spotlight rather than merely endure it.
The biggest thing is finding people to kind of get you out of that cycle and get you to thinking about the positive things you did, even though a lot of times people online aren't talking about the positive things.
The Indiana Fever's tale is noteworthy. From a terrible franchise to one of the most talked about basketball teams, they demonstrated how perseverance and teamwork can completely change the course of history. Lexie Hull's own recovery served as an example of that lesson. Her perseverance, diligence, and ability to grasp opportunities all contributed to Indiana's recovery. However, she is the first to acknowledge that Caitlin Clark served as the impetus. According to Paul, she is more than just a talented athlete. She is a force that improves everyone in her vicinity. And the truth is that the entire franchise was lifted off the floor by Clark.
The fact that people are talking about the WNBA, people are tuning in to our games, that's what we want to hear, and that's only going to get us farther as we go on.
Wins weren't the main factor in Indiana's ascent. Identity was at issue. Long-term success was made possible by sold-out performances, an enthusiastic fan base, and a team culture that prioritized accountability over justifications. Hull said it so well. We're playing for more than simply ourselves. We have a greater goal in mind. The Fever are more than simply contenders going forward, with Clark at the helm, Hull flourishing, and players like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell poised to take the field. They have the potential to become a major force.
I think it's moving in a good direction. I think that it's because it's more competitive and there's more eyes on it. The pool of coaches that we can choose from, I think, will only get bigger and bigger. I think we're going to have great coaches coming up, and just excited to see, what those eras look like. Like, it's unpredictable at this point, but excited to, talk about it in a year from now.
However, remember that this is just the beginning. The Fever have demonstrated their ability to overcome hardship and gain traction. Can they now move from being competitors to becoming a part of the WNBA elite? That is the only question that remains. Time will provide an answer to that. What do you think, then? Are the Fever prepared to establish themselves as one of the best teams in the league? You can express your support for Lexie by leaving a remark with the phrase, Lexie Show, underneath. Turn on all notifications, like, and subscribe to ensure you don't miss anything. After you click the video on the screen, we'll talk in the next.